10 minutes before 7 here on Morning Live. Now, the Public Service Association, the PSA, says it is unhappy with the announcement that the Public Investment Corporation, the PIC, will grant Eskom a short-term loan for 5 billion rand, as announced yesterday. And the Congress of Trade Unions, that's Cosatu, differs with the PSA. They're, of course, supporting this 5 billion rand lifeline to Eskom, but, of course, with conditions. The PSA says the parties that agreed to this went back on an agreement that the PIC should not bail out any state-owned enterprises until it can be ascertained that governance is in place. Also, the PSA says Parliament had previously indicated that the PIC is already overexposed and not in a position to give out such amounts. Tahir Maepa is the Deputy General Manager at the PIC. We're also joined in studio by Wayne Duwenage, who, of course, is the Chairperson of OUTA. We're going to get their response to these developments. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being with us. Welcome to Morning Live. So let's start with the PSA, because this really is the crux of it all. You are completely against this bailout, aren't you?
We're completely against it. We cannot continuously have SOEs being charity case of the PIC. And the mere fact that PIC is already overexposed as far as the investments in these SOEs. We're talking about 5 billion, and most probably to a lot of people, it's a small price to pay. But remember that Eskom owes PIC over 100 billion. So it's 5 billion over the 105 billion that, as we speak, if we want it back, Eskom will not be able to pay it back. But the crux of the issue here is that there was an understanding between ourselves and PIC. We went to Parliament together and we said that we are not going to bail out SOEs until such a time we are satisfied that there's good corporate governance, they've cleaned up their management issues there. And what do we have now? Only the new board. They haven't really been tested whether they are capable of making sure that there's good corporate governance in Eskom. We're still having the same minister who was part of the whole debacle that led to where Eskom is currently. And we're saying that it is not fair to the public servants who can't afford houses, who can't take their children to school, and yet they don't have access to their capital, yet their money is being used to fund corruption.
To bail out a state of enterprise. The minister you're talking about, obviously, Lynn Brown.
Lynn Brown, of course.
Is what you feel is a big problem to be there. Wayne, let me quickly get your views. You're not as pessimistic.
Yeah, I think under the previous circumstances, we would be very angry as well. And that's what's happened, is the PIC has been used to bail out Eskom in a state of bad governance in the past. But what we have to do, and we have to move fast, is put our faith behind this new board and the new interim CEO, Khadebe. We believe that they have the ability to turn this organization around, even as difficult as it is. And I think the PIC has more to lose if it doesn't do these temporary bailouts with conditions. You know, they've got 100 billion, as you say, invested there. If this organization, which is too big to fail, cannot pay its bills, goes into further default, which then has a catalyst into all government bonds, I think we see a bigger problem. So we cautiously think that this is the right decision that the PIC have made, but we can understand the frustration of the employees' benefits team. That this is getting frustrating. I think the communication has been very bad with them, and now we need to work together to make it happen, because we cannot allow Eskom to fail.
Yeah, we certainly can't, and let's bring that into the question here. To hear the fact that Eskom, their hands are tied, they're in a desperate situation. We saw a press conference last week where the management came out. We heard them being very, very frank. They said that all the media reports are true. Everything you've heard about Eskom is true. We need to turn this ship around. Did this not give you a little bit more confidence that the money will be used in the right manner and it will turn around?
Look, we want Eskom to succeed. There's no question about it. But our sense of betrayal is the fact that the people that we thought that they were partners against corruption, the people that we thought that we can rely on in fighting this scourge in the public service and SOEs, they are the ones who went behind our back, not even a courtesy of a call to say, guys, we are faced with this situation and the reasons behind it is 1, 2, 3. And I understand that, you know what, we cannot say that the lights must be off in the country. But maybe sometimes it's important that we get the lights off so that people can understand what corruption did to this country. And until so long as people, their lives are normal, they will never be able to appreciate the extent in which this situation, how dire this situation is. Yes, we want to make sure that things improve, but at whose expense? I cannot sit here with comfort or face my members with clear conscience and say that your money is safe. I'm unable to say that. And the worst part, remember, that my members are on defined benefit. If something goes wrong with all these SOEs, you and I, normal, ordinary taxpayers, will have to foot that bill. We are not in politics. We don't care whether yesterday it was Zuma, tomorrow is Ramaphosa. We are dealing with a principle. And we are saying, clean out your house, make it in order, then we'll consider.
Yeah. Wayne, this is very worrying, and I think Tahir's got a very, very good point, because at the end of the day, I mean, you're dealing with people's livelihood, money that they've worked very, very hard for, and it always has been the average South African that is paying the price for the corruption that has shrouded these state-owned entities. And Eskom, as we mentioned before, has always been that red flag of Eskom has been the corruption, the center of corruption. Are you confident? I know you're saying you're cautiously confident that this is the right move, but how?
Yes, I think if you look at the political playing fields that are unfolding right now, we're actually quite excited with the fact, I mean, just the Hawks going into Eskom to demand papers, to demand the records. This is a good sign. It wouldn't have happened in the past. We believe that the tipping point now in the fight against corruption has started with the new elective conference that took place with the ANC in December. So with Cyril Ramaphosa in place, you've seen very swiftly a new board, new management. You'll see a clean out at Eskom. It's not going to happen overnight, but they have to go and tackle the real issues. The beauty is that they're going to go and fetch money now. Just looking at the Ngula project at Eskom, went from 9 billion to 30 billion rand. There's 10 billion rand that management can now go and fetch from corrupt connected people to politicians in that project. There are a lot of people, very rich people now, that cannot sleep at night, because what is unfolding is that the fight against corruption has now started in earnest. And this is exciting times for us. If we can claw back that money, and on Medupi, where this plunder pot has just continued unabated for the last 7 years, this is really, really exciting stuff. So I think we've got to give this new Eskom board the opportunities to move and move fast, and we will see that this money is being well spent, as opposed to what would have happened had it been given under the previous boards where the corruption has been rife.
Yeah. Talking about boards, you've also stated that you're unhappy with the PIC board. Why? I know you were saying people they did behind your back, they never consulted with you. With regard to the PIC board? Well,
our argument with the PIC board is that the current board, when it was appointed, it was not done properly. It was not done in terms of the PIC Act, because the Act clearly states that when the minister appoints, he must also consider the depositors. Who are the depositors? It's us, our members, are the depositors to the Government Employee Pension Fund. And if you look at that board, there's not a single depositor who's sitting in that particular board. We're still rearing ourselves from the Steinhoff saga, whereupon the same PIC, where it was supposed to have played an oversight role, they never attended any of the Steinhoff meetings. That is why you see that situation. In Eskom, similarly, PIC is not represented. In SAA, they are not represented. So all these monies are being thrown in, but nobody is going in to check whether these monies are being used accordingly. The 100 billion that we invested there, when corruption was taking place, where was PIC? Why they never said a word? Why they never challenged Eskom? And this is where the problem is we have with this institution, because they are not serving the interest of the pension fund members. They are serving the interest of politicians. And that is why we are saying that board, all of it, it has to be removed.
All right, just Wayne, a final closing note from you. The PSA's objections and their viewpoint, obviously it's very, very valid, but let's hear from you. Perhaps give us a little bit of hope at the end of it all.
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, those points are very valid. The PIC's board, from its past behaviour, have a lot to answer for. I think what we found quite interesting, a tweet this morning from Mike Levington is, well, where's the political office bearers pension fund, the parliamentarians pension fund? Can they also invest and help bail out Eskom and put their money behind this real issue? So, but there's a lot of dynamics at the moment, and I think we're quite excited that where we are going, and this question of the boards, the various boards, PRASA, SANRAL, there are a lot of boards that have to be looked at very seriously and changed. The sad thing is they moved Popo Molefe out. He needs to be put back into PRASA because he was doing a good job in uncovering and dealing with corruption there. And organisations like ours have had to be sucked in to have Madaba's cases against the Hawks to do their job. But I think we're going to see a very different picture playing out over the next few months and years as we tackle and get to the bottom of corruption and go and fetch the money that has to come back to us.
Gentlemen, we thank you very much for your views. Thank you for coming in and talking to us here on the programme. Wayne Duwenage, of course, from OUTA, talking to us about the issue of the PIC. And we've got Tahir Maepa, who is the Deputy General Manager of the Public Service Association for Eskom, and that R5 billion lifeline that the PIC has now thrown towards Eskom. All right, the time is 8 o'clock. Let's get on news.